Hello everyone. Welcome to Ed Talk TV, Conversations Worth Having. I'm your host, Ed Troxel, and I help you take your ideas, turn them into income, and help guide you through the tech challenges along the way. I hope that you're having a fantastic Friday. I got a lot of new people on the page, so hopefully you're going to be able to tune in live. If not, if you're watching the replay, we love replay viewers just as much as live viewers, so don't be afraid to comment. That's the biggest thing to know around here. If this is your first time joining, let me do a couple quick housekeeping rules / things to share with you. And then while I'm doing that, you can like, love, share this out, tag your friends, jump into the comments just like Mickey did, and say hello. Even if you're watching the replay, hey Erica. For those who are new, this is a business talk show, Ed Talk TV. And we talk about business, tech, and the user experience. We go live here on the page Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I know it's crazy, what? And we just have those conversations that are worth having, talking about different things about business. You honestly, you really never know what you're going to get in each episode. I mean, today we have a guest, which is awesome, so you know that main topic. But then you never know what I'm going to share in random news, which is coming up next. So we have random news, then we go into a topic, and on most days it's just me. But on days like today, we get special guests who we'll bring on shortly. If you want to become a guest, you can always fill out the guest request form. In the comments, I put the website, checkwithed.com. You'll see that in a little bit here. That is a place where you can go after the show to find anything you need. Whether you're trying to get in contact with me, you want to hire me for a project, you want to be able to join the Hey Ed community. We'll talk about that in a second. Join my email list. All that stuff is there, including Ed Talk TV guest request form. So definitely take a look at that. You're going to want to make sure to do that. Going back to a couple points that I just mentioned, when you're on checkwithed.com later, you want to do at least two things for me. One, join the email list if you haven't done so already. I send out one email a week. You missed today's. I know. But if you get on there right after this show, you won't miss next week's. I share tips, tricks, apps, things I've been up to, best practices, all kinds of stuff. Basically, you get inside all the things that I've been doing during the week. And you get a weekly recap of the show, so then that way if you missed anything because Facebook didn't share it with you, you have it right there in your inbox for you to reference whenever you're ready. Second thing I need to do is check out the Hey Ed community. Yes, you're probably like, Hey Ed, what is that? Glad you asked. And the Hey Ed community is where you can go to get business and tech support all month long. So instead of having just a one-on-one consult with me, which I still do those, but instead of having that for your business questions or for your tech questions, I've rolled everything into one membership community. So that way we can all work together and learn together. And sometimes you don't know what questions to ask. That's where you discover them, and you discover the answers too. And then sometimes you maybe don't want to ask the question because you feel like it's just you, and you're like, I don't want to ask the question and look dumb. No, that's not what this community is about. Everyone's like, I'm going to ask this question. And then those who are quiet will be like, oh, that's the same question I had. So we really are an active community, and it's where you get all of your business and tech questions answered. So definitely check that out, and you're going to want to become a member before Tuesday because we're going to have a special training in there, not by me, by somebody else, but it's going to be awesome. So definitely, if you've been considering it, now would be the time to do that because that way you can join us on Tuesday because that training is not going to be available anywhere else. So there's that info. Now let's jump into random news before we bring on our guest today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Part of random news is the business page here. We've been talking about this all week. I wanted to highlight this post, though, real quick for those who are new, especially because it's Friday and I get a lot more newbies on Fridays because of promo days in groups and elsewhere on Facebook land. I want you guys to know about this post. It's something I tried last week, and I'm doing it this week as well. This is a post where you can reintroduce yourself, and you can find other people that you maybe want to connect with, network, buy from, whatever. There's already people commenting in here. As you can see, Facebook's only passed it on to about 95 people. So, be aware of that. So there's that one. And now, here's another one. Mickey, we're going to use this as an example. Remember, for those who tuned in yesterday, we talked about the post reach. And I'm only going to do a real quick recap of this because I don't want to spend too much time on it today. But we talked about how Facebook wants us to stay on Facebook. And so, we're supposed to not put a link in the post, because putting a link in the main post makes our reach go down, and we're supposed to put them in the comments. We've heard all of that. Have you heard that? Even if you're watching the replay, have you heard that before? Like, don't put the link in the post, put it in the comments, so then that way you get better reach. Well, you never know with Facebook, and you never know with your page. You just have to keep testing. And we did that yesterday, and I wanted to show another example to prove yet again we're on the right path in terms of there is no real rule here as to whether you share a link or not. Because if you see here, I shared this link from one of our viewers, Mickey. Hello, hello. And I shared this earlier, about 2 hours ago. It's only reached 14 people. Mind you, it's a Facebook post that I shared on my Facebook page, meaning nobody goes to any other website. They all stay on Facebook. It's only reached 14 people. Then, if we look at my post right now, this is not a link. We'll talk about the link in a second. But if we just look at today's episode, right now it's already reached 63 people, and it's only been live for 6 minutes. But we know Facebook wants us to go live, so that's fine. But if we look at the example from yesterday, because I didn't post a link today of anything, but if we look at the example from yesterday, this was the ABC News one. This goes to somebody else's website, so it takes people from Facebook and puts them on somebody else's website. It's almost 400 reach today. It's crazy. It's crazy. So when you hear these rules, don't do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, do this, test. Your answer should always be, I'm going to test it. I'm going to see if it works. I'm going to see if I have any issues. Because every page is going to be different. Every situation is going to be different. It's just kind of, think about it like I'm on this health and fitness thing. Think about it this way. If we were to say, oh, go on the low-carb diet, you might be like, I've already tried the low-carb diet. It doesn't work for me. I need paleo, or I need keto, or I need XYZ. But yet it works for me, or vice versa, right? All of us are going to have those situations. They're all going to be different. So take everything with a grain of salt and be willing to test it for yourself and see what happens. That's all I'm saying there. Mickey says, I'm back, rescheduled client. Oh, nice, Mickey. Can't stay on because you're coaching call. Oh, see, this is what happens, you guys. For those who are new, this is what happens. You get so addicted to the show and to just showing up, delivering, and engaging that you're like, oh, hold on, I got a client. You know what? I can't help you right now. I can't take your money. I need you to, can I just reschedule you for like maybe 45 minutes to an hour later? I'll be back. I promise it will be good though. Because you guys know you're going to come here and get a ton. So I love that. Yes, these rules can drive you nuts. Exactly. It's really one of those things that you constantly have to be testing, you guys. I mean, look at this lip sync battle one that I showed you yesterday. It's only at 110. Like, it's so interesting. And then yesterday's morning show was 220. It's one of those things that at the end of the day you have to test. So that's what I'm saying. Also, in random news, thanks to Erica, did you guys know that there's still a Blockbuster? Technically, there was 3. Now they're down to 1. Like, who, even on the replay, who knew that there was still Blockbuster? Maybe I should back up and ask, how many of you guys know what a Blockbuster is? Anybody? Do you know what a Blockbuster is? Now, this blew me away, and this is super awesome, the fact that there's still 1 left. Because I thought they completely just were gone, like they were just done. And what's crazy, and I was telling this to Erica last night as we were having this conversation, is what do you guys think would be cool for this 1 Blockbuster? I'm just going to put that thought in your head, plant the seed, because you know me, if you've been following me, I'm already like, my wheels were already spinning the moment I saw this, and I was telling Erica, already. Paula says, I used to visit Blockbuster weekly for the digital age, before the digital age. Yeah, I didn't. I loved Blockbuster. Yeah, Blockbuster was the thing, you guys. Like, it was the place to go for all your movie needs. You would go there, you would browse the aisles. So let's talk about this for a second. The experience, okay? The experience is what we went there for. And so we did all of that, right? And now they're down to one store. I thought they were already gone, but they're down to one store, which is crazy. Can you guess what I told Erica last night, what they should be doing with this one store? Can you guess? Maybe I should save that for Monday's episode. Erica, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Maybe I should save that for Monday's episode. I don't know if we have a guest on Monday. Let me take a quick look. Because I don't want to spend too much time today just because we do have a guest and I want to be able to do that. Maybe we'll do that on Monday. Maybe it will be a cliffhanger. Oh, you see what I did there? Blockbuster movies, cliffhanger. Oh, there we go. There we go. So you can tune back in for that. But in other random news, let me just see the one in my hometown, Texas, just recently closed a few months ago. Yep. Happy not to have to pay the extra. Mickey's like, I'm glad I don't have to pay for the extra fees for the late rentals. Yeah, we always had to make sure those were on time. So the other thing I want you to be aware of in random news. So we'll table this cliffhanger to be continued for Monday. The other thing I want you to know about that's happening. How many of you guys are familiar, even if you're watching the replay, how many are you familiar with a service called Linktree? There's other ones out there that do similar things, but this is for Instagram mostly. I mean, you can use it anywhere, but it's one of those things where you know how Instagram only allows you to have technically one link in your bio, and that's your it's like your only phone call if you were in jail, right? It's your only spot. Well, Linktree is a popular service that many people use. I have an account with them too. I don't use them in my bio anymore, but they're very popular. It turns out that some people are having some issues with that and Instagram, meaning Instagram is saying, nope, can't use this. It's violating our terms and conditions or something like that. And so they're not allowing you to have that in your bio. So if you're using that, you should be checking your Instagram account regularly, making sure that link works, number one. Number two, just keep that in mind that when you use other services like this, third parties, with a free platform where you don't pay rent, that's the trouble we run into, right? That's the thing that we can always run into. That's why it's important to remember that, yes, you can do something quick and easy here, but remember that there's always alternatives, and you may or may not be a techie. That's where you get someone like me to help you out. There are alternatives where you can go and create your own page on your own website that has the same type of thing. Very similar, right? I just edited this up today, but I might even want to get rid of all of this now that I look at it and just have the buttons there. I don't know. But it's just a quick way for you to get to where you need to be without seeing the full-on website, which is coming up next. So understand that there are ways to do it. There are free ways. Don't be paying an extra service fee to have that convenience when you can just have it built on your website. So keep that in mind. And if you haven't checked out, I just updated this all yesterday. I won't go through it right now because I want to get to our guests. But that's just something to remember, is that it's one of those things that we have to be paying attention to our content and our links. Just like I told you on Facebook a couple days ago, I think it was, when we had a guest, said a lot of us, or a lot of you, don't have your website in your About section. Or if you do, you don't have an updated one. The link's broken. So always be sure to check all your different areas to see what's going on. Perfect. Yours works perfect. Awesome. Yes, it's not happening to everyone. There was some conversation going on in a Facebook group today about it, and I thought, I better bring this up just in case. You guys know how I am. I like to just inform you guys, just to kind of keep you up to date. And fingers crossed it's not a big deal. Linktree had posted a comment saying that they're working with Instagram to make sure that gets fixed. Because somebody probably just flagged it and somehow the system was like, oh, this is totally bad for all of it. Who knows? It's one of those things that I'm sure it will get worked out because they're a pretty popular service. But, I just like to let you guys know that just like a sales page, you can create that all on your website for free. Unless unless you're not techie, then you pay that techie to do it for you. But then after that, you don't have those monthly charges. So understand that. And Linktree's they have a paid version, but they also have a free version too. So just to clear that up as well. So welcome everyone jumping in. I'm glad to see you. We're going to phone our guest here, and we're going to bring them on. For those who are new and that just popped in, later after the show, be sure to checkwithed.com. That's where you're going to want to go to sign up for the newsletter and check out Hey Ed, which is a business and tech support community for you. And then you can browse and have fun as well. So let me go ahead and call up our guest. This is our favorite time of the show. It's like, boom. And you guys, of course, can share and comment. Even if you're watching the replay, be sure to comment. And you'll see me drink water because it's hot. It's hot. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone here, those who are watching live and on the replay.
Okay, awesome. So I'm Jeneé of Jeneé.com. I'm a financial consultant, and I help individuals and business owners with online DIY tools and one-on-one support to help them with managing their finances.
Woo! We love to hear that. How many of you guys, even watching the replay, love to hear that? Because I will put both hands up for that one.
And shout out to you, Ed. Your workflow process with scheduling interviews is like top notch. You raise the bar high.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad to hear that, man. It's good to hear that even on a Friday, you guys. I will tell you, because sometimes, we wonder. We're like, oh, well, we'll just go with this and see what happens. That's awesome. So what are we going to learn today? I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, so I know when I had shared the information about the workshops that I was doing, you kind of gravitated to that topic about building a strong financial foundation.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be appropriate to come on and talk about, because I know even as business owners, we have goals that we want to achieve financially in the long term. And so sometimes it's hard to figure out, well, what can we do right now? What can we be thinking about right now that will help get us there? And so the goal is to provide people with concepts that they may or may not have heard about, actual formulas that they can implement in their own financial plan, so that way they have concrete numbers on how to actually get to the end.
Oh, I love that. You guys, I hope you got your pens. I hope you got some paper or your voice recorder, whatever you got. Like, you better be getting ready, because I'm already here ready to take notes as well.
Yes.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump in.
Okay, so when it comes to building a strong financial foundation, there are certain things that need to be taken into consideration. And so I liken it to building a house. When you build a house, you want to make sure that the house has a firm foundation. And so when it comes to your finances, what that looks like is making sure that you have proper protection in place. Because even as business owners, we get so focused on cash flow and producing revenue that we don't think about the ebbs and flows that we'll go through in business. Right. And so when we are, in one of those down moments, what can help with producing cash flow in those times? My dad, he was a second generation business owner. And so with him, so focused on cash flow and trying to make these big deals and, getting into debt and trying to leverage that debt to bring on new business. But it got to a point where when cash flow dried up, there was nothing in place to help supplement what wasn't coming in. And so that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. And what that looks like is basically just figuring out and doing the math around, well, what does it take in order to replace my economic value? Yes. So if something were to happen, if I were to get disabled, if I were to get hurt, if something were to happen to me all of a sudden, how can I replace myself economically so that way things can still flow, things can keep moving. And so I don't put a damper on my family. I don't put a damper on my business. And with the cash flow that we generate, there are a lot of options out there that can help us to have those things in place. So that's where you start.
Yeah, no, and that's a good one too, because, that's what I always tell people before even jumping into entrepreneurship is that's part of planning your exit strategy is like figuring out what are your costs? Like what do you have that is available in the bank should something happen? Because you just never know what's going to come down. And even if nothing happens to you, you just never know when you're going to get that client or that big sale.
Yeah. So it's not just, money in the bank, because that's like your go-to, because those are liquid assets that you can retrieve right away. But even coming down to bare basics, like if something were to happen to your car, you have car insurance. If something were to happen to your house, you have homeowners insurance. And then for yourself, you have life insurance, and then you have disability insurance. So you have these things in place so that way you can help mitigate risk. So that way you don't have to liquidate your assets to replace those things, because the insurance kind of takes care of that.
Smart. Okay. And part of that would also be, I'm guessing, general liability insurance we would want to throw in there as well.
Especially if you have an actual brick and mortar space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, you guys see what I did there? I brought that up because a lot of you may not have that as the bare basics for your insurance. And that is something that you definitely want to be looking into.
Yeah. And I mean, we have home offices, so we want to make sure that our stuff is protected too.
Yeah. And renter's insurance, I know even before I had a business, I started with renter's insurance because it's like super cheap. No matter where you're at, for the most part, it's super cheap. And so it's one of those things like, well, sure, why not? Let's do it.
Absolutely.
And so we have the we're bundling all of that there, and that sets the foundation there. Is that right?
Yes, that sets the foundation. And so what I like to do when it comes to business owners, I'm like, there's a very clear line of demarcation between your personal and your business. Yes. So focusing on your personal, you want to consider what debts do you have, what your mortgage is, the income that you bring in, and what your family depends on. Because when my dad's business ran into trouble, we weren't able to replace his income. At least my mom wasn't. And so we ended up having to move states because, financially she just couldn't do it on her own.
Sure.
And then, the kid, if you have small children, you want to take into account their expenses with college and things like that, at least until you can build up your investments to be able to pay for it outright.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. I mean, especially for anybody who's got kids going to college. I know a lot of parents are on here and will watch the replay, and yeah, college is expensive.
Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, once you have those protections in place, you know that you have lowered your risk significantly, because you don't have to come out of pocket if anything catastrophic were to happen. And so once you've taken care of that, you now move to the next level, and that's tackling your debt. And not just tackling the debt that you have, but not getting into more debt and accumulating more debt, because what happens is accumulating debt is like building wealth in reverse. So it can prevent you from being able to move forward, because it does the opposite. It sucks and drains your resources. And so as you are buying up new things, and you may not necessarily be financially in a position to pay for it, or you think because you're paying monthly, eventually it'll be paid for, it's actually draining resources that you can actually allocate towards building wealth for the future. And so you want to think about not just the debt that you have, but as you think about future purchases, how can you make those purchases in a way where it doesn't add a significant bill?
Yes, and I will tack on to that too, you guys, that when I hear the resources being tapped there, I'm also thinking, and I wanted to speak on this because I don't know if other people are thinking this, is resources means also your energy, your brain power, all of that. Because when you're in debt and you have those expenses over your head, they're held over your head the entire time. No matter if you tell yourself, well, it's just a business expense. Because, I don't know about you guys, but how many of you, even if you're watching the replay, how many of you always hear, especially when you're starting out, and maybe it's just because, like, I don't know, the area or what, but every time I always hear, oh, well, it will just be a business expense. You can write it off. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but what does that really mean? I want dollar signs. I want to know if I'm going in to pay $100 for something, what's the return going to be? It's not just a write-off. Like, that's where you can get into trouble with your mindset not being right, because you're like, oh, well, we'll get that $5,000 TV for the office. It's a business expense. But it's like, did you need it? And was that the best time to be spending that $5,000? So keep that in mind, that it's also your actual energy and how you're going to feel and act on a daily basis too.
Yeah, that's really good, because when just starting out, it was like you want to think big, and it's like go hard or go home.
Yes.
And so I know I would buy up a whole bunch of stuff, but I never thought about what's the return on this going to be. I just thought, you want to start out on the best foot, so you don't want to start small.
Right. And
then eventually you find yourself simplifying and streamlining stuff, and it's like, I don't really need that. And it's waste, because you're paying for stuff, especially if it's a subscription that you're not using. Like, those things add up.
Oh, man, you're speaking my language. I will tell you guys that I am so conscious of my spending and everything. And part of that, I think, deals with my researching and just being around the block again, because I had my first business, which was a magazine. And so it's true. We do, especially when we get started, we're in the zone, and we know, we hear like, go big or go home. And we hear like, we have to, put a little skin in the game. We got to risk it and do this and that. Yes, there's some of that can be true, but you still have to be cautious of what you're spending, how you're spending it, what you're doing, because here's what happens. Like you mentioned, we buy up all these things at the beginning, and we waste a lot of money, and then we go through and we have to simplify things. And I will tell you guys, I will use me as an example, because this is what's happened. I will get people who know that they want to invest in me. They want me to help them build their idea out, their business, take them to the next level. But because they've already spent their time, money, and energy going big the beginning part, which didn't pan out very well, they have to kind of backpedal and say, I can't right now. I can't afford it, or I don't want to do this. And so then there's a time and a place where you have to, okay, well, let me provide you with the resources that are available to you. And I don't know if that example is clearly saying what I mean, but it's one of those things where, I still remember when I was working at Apple, and I'd have customers come in who bought a Chrome laptop. Maybe this will make more sense. They bought a Chrome laptop, which is basically, think of it like just being able to go on the internet. Like, you can't save anything to the computer. It's just allowing you to go on the internet. Well, they'd come into the store and say they need to buy an Apple, which is expensive, right? Apples are expensive. Chromebooks are super cheap or affordable. Mm-hmm. Well, the person that helped them at Best Buy didn't give them an explanation of the real difference, meaning they bought it at Best Buy, they got the laptop, which they thought they could do everything a laptop can do, but they didn't. Therefore, they're pissed off, and then they come into Apple to get help with buying an expensive product that they didn't want to buy, but they've already gone through the struggle. And so then I have to, coach them and say, go through the whole process of, Well, let me just give you the example and share with you the knowledge of what each does so that you have a better decision. You can make a better decision on which one will work for you. Kind of all over the place. Hopefully that's making sense to you guys.
Yeah, it does.
It's just where you have to basically what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that you want to make sure that whatever you're starting or working on, that you surround yourself with the right tools and resources meaning people as well, have those communities, and be able to simplify those expenses and really go big on the ones that you need. I know I think Paula or somebody else recently was just talking about how they were simplifying their expenses, and they're still in the Hey Ed community. I was like, yes, I made the cut. I was super excited. And it's one of those things that's something that people hold on to real tight because it gives so much. And that's the stuff that you want to look at when you're looking at your programs and your memberships and all that stuff is, what are you getting in return for that? And is it something that you really need?
Absolutely. And it's especially in this journey, you don't know what you don't know. So it's you start out with something, then you realize it don't work, and then you keep going and you pick up some other stuff, and then that may stick. And so you just kind of have to be open to things,
yes,
but you also have to be wise too.
Yep. And that's the thing, being open and being able to research a little bit. And I know not everyone that's not your thing, right? That's my thing, but that may not be your thing. And that's okay. And what I tell people all the time, whether clients or just people in passing, is you still have to do just a little bit of the work in terms of do a quick Google search for whoever you're thinking of hiring. Do a quick review of their business page, their website, whatever. I've told some of you this before is, I had one client who was going to, prior to me, was going to shell out $6,000 for this marketing guy in LA who just was a good sweet talker. And she had called me up and was like, Ed, I'm thinking about doing this. And I was like, no, hold on. I'm going to research for you. Give me 5 minutes. And in less than 5 minutes, I called her back and I was like, no, do not sign any contracts. Do not do anything. He didn't have any active social media. His website was super old and dated and it was not going to be good, and saved her from being in a 6-month contract as well. So that's what I'm saying is yes, you can put some skin in the game, get risky if you want, but you need to do some of that research because you need to.
Yeah, due diligence.
Yeah.
Due diligence. Absolutely. So once you have made sure that you're properly protected and then you've tackled that debt, then of course you want to go to having your emergency fund. So that's what you talked about earlier, having that money in the bank to be able to replace your expenses for at least 3 to 6 months in the event, something happens, cash isn't there, emergencies come up. Right. You're not having to pull from some of your longer term investments. You don't have to pull from credit cards because that's what, a lot of people have to do. So having that money in place, those savings in place, it helps out a ton.
It does really a big time. And I will tell you guys, I know credit cards get a bad rap, and everyone is different in terms of how money works for them. And I know a lot of you guys are, cash only, maybe checks only, maybe debit cards only, maybe credit cards, or all of the above. I will give you a quick rundown for me. I thankfully have respected the credit card enough and my brain has respected it enough that I'm constantly aware of what I'm spending. And for me, using a credit card, because I want the points and the cash back, using that is my only way of paying for things, to be honest, because I've always hated checks and I've always hated ATM cards because they always seem to get ripped off the most. And I don't like carrying a ton of cash. So for me, the credit card has always worked. But I know how easy that can be for many of us to just keep swiping that thing and not realizing that we have to pay a big lump sum at the end of the month. So you have to be cautious about that, but also understand, again, it goes back to your tools and resources. Get a card that works for you. Get a bank that works for you. You shouldn't be paying a fee for your checking account. You just shouldn't. You shouldn't be paying a fee for your savings account. You shouldn't be paying a fee for your credit card unless you are super baller and you're on the Virgin Atlantic, like flying back and forth, and you needed those cool, like, extra points for a free flight for someone, which I'm available whenever you want. That's what I'm talking about. Like, you've got to be smart about it and be able to go through and look at, before you sign up for them, before you start opening all these things, be smart about it and just do your research and ask yourself, what am I getting in return? How's this going to help me?
And you need to know yourself, because I have worked with clients that pay $700-800 in credit card bills because they got swipe happy.
Yep.
And I have friends that do what you do, Ed, and they use the credit card to take care of their bills. They just pay one bill each month, and they're good to go. So you got to know you, and if you're not disciplined enough to be able to do that, then that's not something you should try to do. Right. I've even had people instruct them to freeze their credit cards, so that way, even if they want to access them, they can't because they're frozen.
Yeah. That's good though. And that sometimes, that's what you guys, it's just it's just like working out. For me, I'm just going to say it. It's like working out. You have to figure out what moves work best for you, what machines work best for you, and how often are you going to use them, and for how long. I mean, everything it's testing. Everything is testing and seeing what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so once the debt is taken care of, now you have resources available to actually invest.
Yes.
And that's actually the last thing, because it's like once you have the basics down, then the idea is, if you're not getting into a bunch of debt, if you, are making sure that you're saving on a regular basis, you have set your life up in such a way where you have money to save and invest in different vehicles. So that way, the fact that it's tied up doesn't really hurt you, because your lifestyle now supports you being able to do that. And so when it comes to investing, what I like to coach people on is, when it comes to retirement is a figment of people's imagination. It's not an age when you reach 65.
Right.
It's when can you have enough money where you don't have to work? So for some people, they can be 40. Yeah. For some people, they can be 25.
Right.
Others, they may be 90.
Yep.
It's at what age you can have enough money where you don't have to work. And so when you think about that, you need to understand your family background. I know from my family, the women live till about early to mid 90s.
Wow.
So I need to plan for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So based on the age I want to stop working, ideally want to stop working till about mid 90s, I know that I need to have enough income to support me during those years.
Yeah.
And so that's how I come up with my retirement number. So that way I have something to strive towards. So what that looks like, if I'm planning to retire at, right now I'm on track for age 67, doing the bare minimum.
Yeah.
So at age 67 and planning for 25 years, my retirement number is $1.25 million.
Woo.
And so that's the goal that will allow me to be able to live off of $50,000 a year for 25 years.
So smart to have that laid out.
Yeah. And so I feel like a lot of people that they want to hit this target, but they don't know what target they're going for. So this is how you can get some concrete numbers. Think about what age you want to stop working. Then consider the age that your family lives up until. If you're a male, the men in your family, what age do they live up until? If you're a woman, what age do the women live up until? And then based on the year you want to stop working, the year you think you may live up to, think about how many years that is.
Okay.
And then the next step is to think about how much money would you need to live off of each year during those years. And then based on that annual amount and then the number of years in that time span, that's how much you can at least start with and work towards.
I like that. And that's a really great way to look at it and break it down, because it is important to know. And, in my head, I'm thinking, I love this, so I don't consider this work. And so for me, I'm like, well, I always joke, I feel like I retired at the age of 30 because I worked really hard when I was younger. I mean, I still obviously work really hard, but I worked for other people really, really hard in 9-to-5 jobs that were great and everything, but it's not the same type of work and passion that I have doing this. So when I started doing this, it was like, what? Like, what? I feel like I'm retired. Like, this is what retired people do, I think. They just enjoy whatever they're doing, and they do lots of it.
And that's awesome. And so even with business owners, because a lot of us are building businesses that were connected to and that's heart driven.
Yeah.
And so that just looks like what revenue do you need to be generating on an annual basis to be able to support the lifestyle, and thinking about, do you want to continue to work in the capacity that you are? If you want to slow down at a certain point, then you can shrink your timeline a little bit, but still work towards that big number. Because it never hurts to have more money.
Right. No, and that's a great point, for all of us business owners to be able to take that and run with that as well. Because, it's one of those things that we need to do. And, going back to the savings and stuff, you guys, what's something that I have done for, I don't even know how many years it's been, but I set up a savings account that's not from my regular bank. And that way I don't see it. And then what happens is I have auto withdraw from it $50. Now, you might be thinking, well, 50 is not a whole lot, Ed, or for some of you might be like, oh, that's a lot. Like, whatever the case may be, just pick a number. I just randomly picked 50 because it was something that was manageable, and it's kind of like, I think of it as like a membership fee or whatever. And while I could have put that number higher over the years, I've left it alone, and I've just left it on auto. I've even left it on, it's still on right now, but I've left it on even when I have bills waiting to be paid. Meaning, if I had a credit card fee, let's say the fee was $500, and I only paid $400. Some of you are like, well, Ed, you could have turned off the 50 and put it towards that, so it was $450, and then you would only have a $50 balance. Yes, that's true, but what happens when you turn off or when you stop your habit, your routine? Mm-hmm. How often do you get back on track? And how long does it take you to get there?
That's good. So
for me, the way I've looked at it is that's just not an option to touch. It's still a small enough amount that it's not like it's breaking any banks or anything, and that I can only touch that if it's absolute necessary. Like if I'm really struggling or about to, then I can shut that off. But for me, the way I think about it is if I turn that off at any point in time, I don't know if I'll turn it back on. And so understand, like, that's the kind of stuff that you want to think about is, what can I set up? For you, it may be a couple dollars, like something is better than nothing. And it's kind of like your piggy bank where you just plug it away, whatever extra you plug it away, and you kind of forget about it. And then it's on autopilot, and then you're good to go. And then later, if you really need it, it's there.
Yeah, I love that, because even when, so with the whole thing that happened with my family, when I turned 18, I was like, this is not going to be my life. I'm buying a house. I don't know when, but I'm working towards it. And when I got my first job out of college, I just started saving $500 a month every month.
Nice.
It came out of my check before I even got it in my checking account. And it just was there.
Yep.
3.5 years, I had more than enough money to put a down payment on my house. And when I left corporate, I had a nice sum of money to be able to help me make that transition. And so you got to think not just for today, but for tomorrow. But you hit it the nail on the head. You got to develop these habits, because at the end of the day, the mechanics of finances are simple. Like numbers, they're very clear. They make a whole lot of sense. But what trips people up is their habits, what they've observed over time, what they don't know. And a lot of decisions that we make are emotional, especially when it comes to finances. And we don't make a lot of conscious decisions, as we're learning this month. And financial psychology, that's a whole field. Sure. But it comes down to, what are your habits? And so whether you're saving, I recommend at least 10% of what you're earning or a certain dollar amount. The fact that you're doing it speaks volumes. In the same way you go to, Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or Popeyes, and that $5, $10, $15 adds up. Even if you're saving $50, $20, $10, that adds up too.
Oh, yeah.
The same thing that can work against you can actually work for you.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. And I know a lot of us Californians who are watching this right now and tuning in, we're all like, well, she does not live in California because there's no way she'd ever be able to buy a house. Like, none of us can buy a house in California. So I'll just put that out there. We know that wherever you're at, you got it good.
Yeah, Richmond, Virginia, they're building up a lot now, but I'm glad I bought when I did. Yeah. Originally being from New York, it would have been a different ball game.
Yep. See, that there you go. All you got to say is California or New York, and everyone's like, forget it. Why even bother? Let's go to Starbucks. I'll buy you a drink at the bar down the street. Let's go. They're like, no point in saving if you live in those two places. Just go out and enjoy life.
That is so funny.
Oh, man.
One of the things I wanted to mention too is these two concepts and formulas for people to keep in mind. So in case you may or may not be familiar with the rule of 72, that rule just lets you know how long it'll take your money to double.
Okay.
And the idea is you just divide 72 by the interest rate, and then the answer, that's how long it'll take for your money to double. So if you have a 8% interest rate, 72 divided by 8 is 9, so it'll take your money 9 years to double. Likewise, if you have debt and your interest rate on your debt is 8%, and we know credit cards can be 15, 21, that's how long it'll take for your debt to double if you don't pay that down. So again, the same rules can work for you and can work against you. So that's something to keep in mind. And if you think about a lot of the vehicles out here, the interest rates are low through traditional banks. And so that's why, people are encouraged to go out and speak with a financial professional so that way they can find different vehicles that can give them more interest. And then when it comes to wealth, the formula for building wealth is just money, time, and having a strong rate of return. And then you got to back out inflation and taxes. Yeah. And that gives you the amount that's actually your money. So when you think about your retirement number that we talked about earlier, right? You want to make sure that you give yourself enough time for that money to compound, to build up to that number. Because for a lot of people, it's going to be well over 7 figures. Yeah. That's just, a fact. And so you want to make sure that if you don't have a lot of money, you want to give yourself a lot of time. And you want to find a strong rate of return. Those are the 3 components that you want to make sure that you are keeping in mind. And inflation, it's about 3.5% per year. So you want to make sure that your interest rate is at least beating that. Yeah.
Wow, that's good. I didn't know about the 72 rule, and I haven't looked a lot lately, but I'm like, if you guys can find 8% at any bank, like, that's a really good deal, because I think last week I was at the bank and they were advertising like, well, I forget what they were advertising, but I just saw in one of my savings accounts, which I don't pay attention to the interest because you don't get interest really in savings accounts. But for some reason I had 0.02%. I was like, what? I got 0.02% into my interest. That's awesome. Because I remember back when I was younger, a little kid, my grandma would get like CDs for me. And those actually at that time, I remember they had high numbers in the percentage. And you could just leave it in there and be fine. But these days it's like, I haven't seen any good percentage, but I haven't been looking really closely either.
Yeah, I found a bank called FMBO Direct. They have no brick and mortar locations. It's completely online. And so they're able to offer a higher percentage rate on their account. So like even my checking account is earning 0.67%, which most checking accounts, they don't earn anything.
Yeah.
And then savings, they give you 1.6%.
I might need to be switching my savings over here.
And they give you a neat, card that you can use. And of course, if you do it right, if you need the money, I wouldn't recommend going to an ATM because you pay that fee.
Yeah.
You can do a simple transfer. But yeah, FMBO Direct, they're really good. But for emergency funds, you definitely want to look into like bond accounts because you can get like 4 or 5%, especially if you don't plan on touching it.
Oh, right.
It's a good way to get a higher yield on your savings.
I typed in FMBO, but it's FNBO. Thank you, Mickey. So you guys, I made that mistake. I'm just going to put, don't read mine. Don't read mine. That's awesome. Good. Mickey says that she has that too. So that's awesome.
Cool. Yeah. And when it comes to like those higher yield, investment accounts that can get you, over that 3.5%. I mean, you have a lot of different options.
Right.
A lot of 401ks and IRAs, they earn about 8% per year. Most people don't know if they have permanent life insurance policies, the cash value can generate, 8 to some 13 or 15% per year.
Wow.
Yeah. Bonds are great. That's lower yield, but it still gets you over that inflation hump.
Sure.
And then you have other vehicles as well.
Very cool. Man, this has been awesome. Did we cover everything you wanted to cover? Because we're getting close on time and I want to make sure I give you everything. Okay.
Yes, those concepts, I wanted to make sure I left people with that because when I got into the industry and got my license, that's when I learned about it. Even though I went to an econ school and took accounting in college, but they were really helpful because at the end of the day, numbers make sense for me.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We love that. We love that the numbers make sense to you so that they'll make sense to us. That's awesome. And so everyone tuning in, even if you're watching the replay, definitely make sure to check the comments. I want to make sure that you put your link and whatever else you want to share with everyone. Just be sure to pop it in the comments so that way they can connect with you and check you out and go over to your website and all that good stuff.
Okay. Awesome. This was fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so glad you were able to jump on with us and share that info.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, have a great Friday and we'll talk soon.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See, guys, isn't that fun? I love doing this show, and that just makes it so much more entertaining and just fun to be able to hang out with you guys and have you come on, be a guest expert, and share what you know. And we learned all this new stuff in here. the 72 rule, the FNBO directs, like I'm about to go check that out. You learned all about finances. I mean, not enough people are on this episode. Hopefully they'll catch the replay. You can share this out, tag your friends. Go join my email list after this over at checkwithed.com so you can get it in your inbox next week and then share it to your friends. But it's one of those things like you really just gotta show up, deliver, and engage. That's all it is. And when you do it on the show, we're just hanging out, just you and me hanging out. So go out there, have a great weekend, enjoy the beautiful weather, hopefully, wherever you're at. And like I said, if you've been thinking about Hey Ed, you'll definitely want to go check that out now because Tuesday is going to be a big one for us inside the community. So I will leave you guys with this, and I'll see you back here, same time, same place on Monday. Take care. Have a great weekend. Whoops, I got to be on the right screen. Ha! See ya. Oh, it didn't work on that one either. It doesn't want to give up. Nobody wants to leave. I know, you guys just don't want to leave me. I'm sorry, but I gotta go. What is the Hey Ed community? I'll let them tell you.
I'm drawn to this community, Erica, because listen, I'm going to make sure as a business person, I know you are as well, serious business women we're going to make sure that we're getting the content knowledge we need from the Hey Ed community. But I also want to laugh. I want to have fun. I want to enjoy my workday. And I know I'll get that balance in the Hey Ed community. I know he'll tolerate our tangents.
And I think that's the perfect way to have a really good engaged community. It's a perfect balance of business and fun.